In a twist of fate that could rival the most gripping of Shakespearean tragedies, Britain's economy has plunged into the abyss of recession, and all eyes are fixed on Chancellor Rachel Reeves as the architect of this calamity. The latest GDP figures, released like a thunderclap on an unsuspecting nation, have confirmed the darkest fears of economists, business leaders, and citizens alike. The United Kingdom has officially entered a recession. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth have sealed this grim fate, shattering the fragile hopes of a nation desperate for stability. Under Reeves' stewardship, the economy has not merely faltered, it has crumbled, and the chorus of voices demanding her resignation grows louder with each passing hour. Is this the work of a chancellor out of her depth, or has the chaos unleashed by Donald Trump's global economic warfare delivered the fatal blow? As Reeves prepares for her pivotal spring statement on March 26, 2025, the stakes have never been higher, and the British public watches in horror as their financial future teeters on the edge of ruin. Love Britain? Then subscribe now. Don't let our countryside fall, our heritage fade, or our dreams crumble. Your click is your stand for this great nation. Do it for Britain, now. Hit that subscribe button now, and together we will hold the powerful to account as Britain's economic destiny hangs in the balance. Let us begin with the cold, hard truth laid bare by the Office for National Statistics, ONS, on this fateful March day in 2025. The GDP figures for January, eagerly awaited by optimistic economists who dared to dream of a meager 0.1% increase, instead delivered a devastating blow, a contraction of 0.1%. This is no minor stumble. It is the second consecutive quarter of decline, the textbook definition of a recession. For months, Reeves had stood before the nation, her voice brimming with confidence, promising that her policies would ignite economic growth and usher in an era of prosperity. Yet here we stand, betrayed by those very assurances, staring into the wreckage of a shrinking economy. Businesses tremble, investors flee, and even the Bank of England, an institution long revered for its stoic restraint, has reportedly turned against her, with an anonymous insider branding her approach a complete betrayal of economic stability. The nation demands answers. How did we fall so far, so fast? The descent into this economic quagmire did not begin in January, though that month's figures have served as the final nail in the coffin. December 2024 had offered a fleeting glimmer of hope with a festive 0.4% growth spurt, a momentary reprieve fueled by holiday spending. But just as Britons nursed their post-Christmas hangovers, the economy mirrored their regret, crashing back to earth with a thud. Every major sector, manufacturing, construction, and even the typically buoyant services industry, conspired to deliver a catastrophic performance. Manufacturing, once the beating heart of Britain's industrial might, saw a staggering 0.9% drop, its factories now churning out little more than despair. Construction shrank by 0.2% for the second month running, as if the nation's builders had collectively abandoned their tools in protest. Even the services sector, encompassing everything from quaint hair salons to sleek consultancies, could muster only a pitiful 0.1% rise, hardly enough to offset the carnage elsewhere. Supermarkets thrived as citizens stockpiled groceries, but this came at the expense of pubs and restaurants, forsaken by a populace choosing to drown their sorrows in the privacy of their homes rather than in public revelry. Rachel Reeves, appointed Chancellor with grand promises of economic renewal, now finds herself at the epicenter of this disaster. When she and Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer assumed power in July 2024, they vowed that economic growth would be their #1 mission. They inherited what the ONS had described as a gangbusters economy from the previous Conservative government, a robust foundation that should have been the envy of the world. Yet, in a mere 8 months, that legacy has been reduced to rubble. The UK economy has grown by a paltry 0.3% under their watch, a figure so anemic it barely registers as progress. Now, with recession confirmed, that gangbusters economy lies in tatters, replaced by what can only be described as a busted gang of broken promises and shattered dreams. Reeves' policy decisions have fueled this descent into chaos. Chief among them is her infamous £26 billion tax hike on businesses, announced in October 2024, a move that has been likened to punishing employers for the sin of creating jobs. This colossal increase in national insurance contributions sent shockwaves through the private sector, triggering a collapse in hiring at a pace unseen since the financial crisis of 2008. Excluding, of course, the pandemic years, when chaos was the norm. Businesses, already battered by years of uncertainty, now find themselves in survival mode, slashing jobs and scaling back ambitions to weather the storm of Reeves' fiscal assault. The Bank of England, rarely one to mince words in public, has issued a veiled rebuke, warning that her tax policies risk stoking inflation and deepening unemployment. Analysts, too, have sounded the alarm, with Paul Dales of Capital Economics declaring that these dismal numbers highlight just how fragile the economy was even before Reeves' tax rises took full effect. If this is fragility, One shudders to imagine the devastation yet to come. Ever the deft politician, Reeves has wasted no time in seeking a scapegoat to deflect blame from her own missteps. Rather than trot out the tired excuse of the mess we inherited for the 100th time, she has turned her gaze across the Atlantic, pointing an accusatory finger at none other than Donald Trump. In a statement dripping with ominous undertones, she declared, "The world has changed, and across the globe we are feeling the consequences." This is no subtle jab. It is a calculated attempt to pin Britain's woes on the former US president, who, in just 2 months since his return to power in January 2025, has unleashed a global trade war of unprecedented ferocity. Tariffs fly like missiles, stock markets convulse in terror, and decades of international stability have been upended by Trump's relentless pursuit of economic disruption. The S&P 500, a barometer of America's corporate giants, has plummeted 9.7% in a single month, while the tech-laden Nasdaq has nosedived 13.6%, sending Wall Street into a tailspin. Given Britain's historical tendency to follow America's economic lead, this transatlantic turmoil spells disaster for the UK. Yet let us not be deceived, Reeves' troubles began long before Trump's latest antics. Her £26 billion tax blunder was a self-inflicted wound, a policy so ill-conceived that it would have crippled businesses even in the absence of global upheaval. Trump's tariffs may have rattled nerves in January, but their full impact remains uncertain, with stock markets still clinging to the faint hope of a boom rather than a bust. Reeves, however, has no such ambiguity to hide behind. Her decisions have already sown the seeds of economic ruin. As Rob Morgan of Charles Stanley grimly noted, the wider picture will probably disappoint even the pessimists. This is not a mere setback. It is a catastrophe of Reeves' own making, exacerbated but not caused by the chaos beyond Britain's shores. As the nation reels from this economic body blow, all eyes turn to March 26, 2025, when Reeves will deliver her much-anticipated spring statement. This is no ordinary address. It is a defining moment that could either salvage her legacy or cement her place in history as the Chancellor who presided over Britain's collapse. The timing could not be worse. The GDP figures landed like a bombshell while Reeves was conveniently ensconced in Scotland, perhaps contemplating an escape from the mounting pressure. Undeterred, she emerged with a Churchillian flourish, vowing to turn around the poor performance of more than a decade. It is a bold ambition, akin to promising to transform a sinking ship into a luxury liner mid-voyage. Yet the public is weary of rhetoric. What they demand are results, and thus far, Reeves has delivered only failure. The challenges she faces are Herculean. Increased borrowing costs, driven by global instability and her own profligate spending, threatened to choke off any hope of recovery. In October 2024, she handed out generous pay rises to public sector workers, a move that widened the fiscal black hole she now scrambles to fill. Analysts speculate that she may have painted herself into a corner, leaving little room to meet her own budget rules without resorting to yet more tax hikes or savage spending cuts. One such cut, already whispered in Westminster corridors, involves a £6 billion reduction in the welfare budget, targeting disability and unemployment benefits. In a stroke of grim irony, Reeves appears poised to balance the books by squeezing the most vulnerable, a decision that will surely inflame an already restive populace. As Paul Novak of the Trades Union Congress observed with biting clarity, the figures show the need for public investment, a statement so obvious it borders on satire, yet one that Reeves seems determined to ignore. The question now haunting Britain is this: who will deliver the fatal blow to its beleaguered economy, Rachel Reeves or Donald Trump? Reeves' domestic blunders have left the private sector anemic, its vitality sapped by punitive taxes and a lack of coherent strategy. Meanwhile, Trump's global gambit threatens to drag the world's largest economy, the United States, into a recession of its own, a contagion that Britain, ever the eager apprentice, is unlikely to escape. The manufacturing sector, already in a 3-year downward spiral, has been hit hardest, its output dwindling as businesses brace for the uncertainty of Trump's tariffs. Construction falters, services limp along, and the specter of higher taxes in April 2025 looms like a guillotine over business sentiment. The economy isn't likely to bounce back anytime soon, warns Dales of Capital Economics, a prophecy that carries the weight of inevitability. For Reeves, the path forward is fraught with peril. Her defiance in the face of mounting criticism, her insistence on going further and faster with a nebulous plan for change, rings hollow against the backdrop of January's economic winter blues. Even the weather, that perennial British scapegoat, has been blamed for the downturn, with the ONS citing adverse conditions as a factor in the construction and manufacturing slump. Yet no amount of drizzle can wash away the stain of her policy failures. The services sector, bolstered by a surge in supermarket sales, offers a faint glimmer of resilience, but it is a hollow victory when pubs and restaurants languish, their doors darkened by a populace too fearful to spend. As Britain trudges into the remainder of 2025, The only certainty is uncertainty. National pessimism grows like a weed, choking out the last vestiges of optimism that once sustained the nation. Reeves' upcoming spring statement will be a crucible, a test of whether she can muster the vision and resolve to steer the UK away from the precipice. Yet the evidence thus far suggests a grim outcome. Her tenure has been marked by miscalculation, hubris, and an uncanny ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. The £26 billion tax hike, the collapse of private sector hiring, the alienation of the Bank of England, all point to a chancellor ill-equipped to navigate the stormy seas of global and domestic upheaval. Donald Trump, for all his bluster, may yet prove a secondary player in this drama. His trade wars and market shocks are a gale force wind, but it is Reeves who has left Britain's economic ship unmoored and vulnerable. The UK economy, once a beacon of resilience, now resembles a cautionary tale. A diet plan gone horribly wrong, shrinking when it should have grown. If Reeves does not change course, and soon, Britain may not merely flirt with recession. It may plunge headlong into a full-blown crisis from which recovery could take years, if not decades. So, dear reader, what say you? Is Rachel Reeves the hapless victim of a world turned upside down, or the chief architect of Britain's economic undoing? Will Trump's global chaos outpace her domestic failures, or has she already sealed the nation's fate? The answers lie in the days ahead, but one thing is certain: the stakes have never been higher, and the British people deserve better than the chaos they now endure. Subscribe now, comment below, and join us as we unravel this tale of woe. Because in times like these, ignorance is not bliss, it is peril.